Alright, see if we can avoid the technical difficulties this time. So I'm going to be tying a fly again. Oh, good evening. I'm going to be tying a fly again. It's going to be a commemorative fly again. I've tied one for representing Texas A&M colors, sort of. And then I tied one for Phi Mu Alpha, which is the fraternity I was in college. And today I'm going to do Texas State University, the Bobcats, where I went to college. At the time it was called Southwest Texas, and then they switched it while I was there. So I was the second graduating class of the school with the name change. So I actually tied this fly earlier, so if you're on Facebook, you may have watched it. The problem was when I switched my phone direction, it zoomed in for some reason, and I didn't know it until I was saving it. So when I got done and I uploaded it all, then it was all overly zoomed in. Anyway, so I'll show you the stuff that I'm tying with. So I have my hat there, and actually you can see the fly that I tied earlier in the video on the hat. It's here. Materials I'll use are the ginger hackle and this yarn I'm using. So this is like brown and maroon kind of mixed together. It goes alternating, and I took the maroon section and pulled out. I just picked at the fuzz there to make dubbing, so I'll be using that for dubbing for the body. And so got the hook here is you know, I like to use, if you watch my videos, I like to use the eagle claw hooks. They come in 3 sizes, and you can pick the size. This is the medium size from that. And I've depressed the barb already, and depressed the top barbs for the bait holder part of the hook, because you don't need that for the fly. So I'm going to now zoom in a little bit and get started with the fly. So the colors I chose, obviously this is the closest thing I have to the gold of Southwest Texas, and then the maroon from that. That's the 2 colors. So, ow, dang it, that hurt. Blood. Yowza. Golly. Well, I might like the taste of that one. So, and that bled quick. Jeez. Having some issue with focus here. That should be good. So, all right. I'll go ahead and get started. So, as always, you start off with covering the hook with thread. And you hold up the thread to keep the wraps somewhat together. I'm not really concerned about that right now. It's just kind of the way you do it. But it also keeps the tag end underneath the string on top of the hook, so it's all lined up and not all over the place. So I'll take that down. I have a ginger hackle here. I'm going to use this for the tail part. So I'm just going to drag my fingers backwards on the feather so that the barbs stick out. And then I'm going to take a section of these, a couple of sections, and I'm going to just pinch the tail end of that. And that makes it so you get a good bunch. And I want it to be about the length of the hook. So I'll put that there. Switch hands. Oh, I want to be further back. Right there at the bend of the hook. Put it down. Tie that down. And then I'm just going to bring these in. I don't want these clumps here. Although with the dubbing, I probably won't matter. There we go. Hello, Robert. I see that there's a Cervinos coming up. Glad to hear that. Excited for those shows. All right. So I've got some good coverage here. I'm going to go over here and tie the bead chain on. So I like to use bead chain eyes. So I'm calling this the, Texas State, or Southwest Texas, what it used to be called, their mascot is the bobcat, and we call it BOKO, the bobcat. And so going with that name, I'm going to call, and this is a kind of a woolly booger kind of bead chain bugger. So I'm going to call it the BOKO bead chain bugger. So you just lay a section of bead chain. This is the same as what you would have like on a ceiling fan. The bead chain, you just cut off a little piece where you have two beads. Then you lay it on the hook and you go between the two balls of, or the two beads of bead chain, several times one way and then several times the other way. And basically you just kind of go in a bunch of different ways. You kind of go under and under and under, 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 crossing again. You just want to build up the thread that's between those eyes. I'm going to go around just one side several times. Go to the other side. Okay, that's good enough. Now, there we go. So now I'm going to do some dubbing. I'm going to put just some wax on my thread here. I've got Textite bowstring wax is what I use. There's several other brands out there that do that. Man, that's the second time I poked myself with that hook. Good grief. So you just take your dubbing material, whatever it is. So this dubbing, let's say you were out camping and you had a hook and you only had one hook and there was nothing on it and you didn't have any bait. So you could take your sock and you could just pick the edge of the fuzz of the sock until you got a big clump of it, and then you could take this and whatever kind of string, you could use fishing line, you could use thread from a t-shirt, like pull off some extra thread, and you just take this and web it out like this. And then you go in here, lay it under the string, under the thread that you're using, and hopefully you have some kind of wax. I don't know if earwax would work if you were in a pinch, but some kind of wax. And you just run it on. Oh, you could use like pine sap if you found a pine tree. That would probably work. Some kind of thing like that. And I can already tell this is going to be too much dubbing, but I'll go ahead and get it started. And then you just, once you get it wrapped around, it's going to work like yarn. And then you just wrap it. And on this type of thing, you want to build it from back to front, thinner to thicker, if possible. This is not ideal dubbing, but it kind of does the job. And then I'm going to just make some crossing turns here. This is dark brown thread, so unless you're in really bright light, you won't see the brown over this maroon, but it'll tame that wild body. Tame that wild body. All right, so now I'm going to tie in the hackle that goes behind the head. So I'm going to prep it by just pulling off some of these barbs here at the base. So Texas State University, it is between Austin and San Antonio in San Marcos, Texas. If you've never been there, it's a really great campus. It's a great school. It started off as a teacher's college back in like 1902, I think it was. Or maybe it was 1898. Started off as a teacher's college, a normal Texas State normal school. And then later they changed it to university. They called it Southwest Texas. In 2004, well, technically 2003, the first class was in December 2003, where they switched it to Texas State University, San Marcos. And if you've ever seen the movie Piranhas from 1978, that was actually filmed at Ocarina Springs, which is there in San Marcos. The San Marcos River comes out of the Edwards Aquifer there at Ocarina Springs, and they used to have a amusement park there. You could go see a diving pig and a mermaid show. There's a glass bottom boat ride that you can still see down under the water. But I started fly fishing there, and so this is kind of a cool fly. And this fly right here would catch, I've caught all kinds of different types of fish with this type of fly. So I have these hackle pliers, and I'm going to take this and hold the feather and just wrap as many times as I can around this head to get a good hackle. Pull back as I go forward. So yeah, I started fly fishing there the year that my wife and I got married. She was still in school. I was a teacher, and I had all kinds of extra time when she was still in class. And I picked up fly fishing. My mom was a fly fished, but she never really taught me. She tried one time, but I picked it up later, and then I fished almost daily in San Marcos. And there's because the springs are there, the water is really fresh, and you can see, if you're even on the bridge, there's a walking bridge over the river on campus, and because the river actually flows through part of the campus, that you can, from 15 feet over the water, you can see down 20 feet into the water to the bottom. It's so clear, and so that makes for really good fishing for one thing. But the fish, it's a lot of bass and a lot of perch, some catfish, and it's largemouth bass. And then there's some hybrid, they're called Guadalupe bass. It's a hybrid bass. But anyway, if you catch them to eat, they're very tasty because the water's so clean. Alright, so I'm just going to pull this back, wrap a couple more times, and then I'll go between the eyes. Oop, captured one of the barbs there. Okay, and then I'm going to go in front here around the eye of the hook. Just take several turns to build up that nose a little bit more. And then I'm going to take a half hitch around and bring this across above the loop of the eye. And then I'm going to take my thread and pull it off, and then tighten it around the eye of the hook. I'll do that one more time. And then the next to the last step, take a couple more turns, and then I'm going to finish it off here. I'm going to back this out just a touch so you can see it. If you've never watched my videos, I always describe this because it was so interesting to me. One of the ways to tie it off. So you just go under the hook. Well, you go over the finger, under the eye of the hook, and you go back over the finger to the left. And then cut that off, and you go through with your finger, go through the loop to the tag end, pull it through, put it back where it was. Go through the loop again, take the tag end, pull it through, and then you want to take a sharp, something tapered. You're going to hold that loop. As you pull it and it tightens, you can guide that loop exactly where you want it. And it puts it right in place. And then you just snip off the tag end. And you can do that several times. I don't find that it's truly necessary to do it that many times, but anyway. So I'm going to take some fingernail polish. This is just regular. A lot of people use glue or different kinds of cement. I just use clear fingernail polish, as a lot of tires do. I'm going to pull these back so they don't get on the feathers. And I'm going to take one drop there and one drop underneath. And try to avoid getting it on the eye of the hook. If it dries with kind of a point to it, it can cut your line. And you can also take a quill that you snip off of a feather, and you can just run it through here and make sure that the glue is out of the eye of that hook. Just wipe it off. So there's the BOKO Beadchain bug. Yeah, that'll work. Or the BOKO bug. So, Robert, thanks for watching. Earlier when I tied this fly, I had several of my old fraternity brothers on there from Phi Mu Alpha. They were all watching it from Texas, or they're not all in Texas now, but they were watching it, and a lot of people have watched and commented already on the other video that I left up. But for some reason, when I went back to watch it, it was really zoomed in, and it looked kind of funky. So I just wanted to redo this video because I was chomping at the bit to get it correct. But anyways, so there's my BOKO bugger. And I hope you enjoyed watching that. And if you like watching these videos and seeing the steps to these different flies, I like to tie this version of a fly. It's just a tail and some kind of a thick body and a wrap behind the head, or starting from the back and wrapping forward, so that it makes a ribbed body, or it's called palmering, but it's a spiky body like a caterpillar all the way up. And then I like to use bead chains for the eyes because they're just cool looking to me. But if you like watching this kind of thing, if you go to either my Facebook page and scroll down, you can see some of the videos that I've recorded on Facebook first, and then you can also transition over to my YouTube channel. I've got this would make my 27th fly, and you can go and see some other flies and some different techniques that you use to tie flies. I will say that I am not a professional fly tyer. I don't get paid. I'm not a production tyer, but I know the basics of how to tie flies, and that's part of the thing that I like to do, is just to teach people. For one thing, that it's pretty simple to get into. I learned all my tying from YouTube and trial and error, and then I like to show things like this where I got dubbing from a yarn instead of going to the store and buying dubbing, that you can just use whatever kind of materials you like. To an extent, there's some materials, like I tried to tie a fly with a sewing kit just as a fun experiment, and I was able to turn out something that was okay. It would catch a fish probably, but it doesn't look terrific, and it probably wouldn't last very long. This one would probably do pretty good. I might use some shiny gold tinsel to wrap around the body next time to make it prettier, or to make it sparkle for the fish. But I would pretty much guarantee that I could throw this out there and just drag it under the water a little bit, and that I would end up with a fish on. So I hope you liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. Check out my other videos. If you search Quiet Man 28 on YouTube, you can see some of my other videos. Quiet Man 28. That is theft from John Wayne movie The Quiet Man. So, and then there we go. So hope you enjoyed it. Have a great evening or morning wherever you are. And that's all. Thank you.